I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra-Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra-Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra-Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra-Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra-Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra-Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra-Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans. It is I, your lovable host, L. Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. It is Thursday, June the 4th in the year of our Lord, 2015, and I'm coming to you live tonight with a very special guest. I am thrilled and honored to have this gentleman speaking with me this evening. He is a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Army and a former representative in the House of Representatives out of the Florida's 22nd District. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Alan West. Colonel West, thank you for being here with me this evening.
Rod, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to seeing you in person when I come up to New Hampshire in October.
That would be absolutely awesome. Yeah, I know this state is we're getting geared up for the presidential race, and I know that you have said that you are not going to be running for president, but sir, you have to know that people are trying to draft you. Well, you know, this is not the NBA or the NFL, but I'm very humbled by that. You know, our office here at the National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas, Texas, is about 2 miles away from where Rick Perry just announced today in Addison. So, you know, we got a deep bench. We would probably have 15 to 16 individuals running on the GOP side. I am happy to be able to support my country and serve my country in whatever capacity, but you know, right now God has me in a great position working as the president and CEO of a fantastic conservative free market think tank that's been around for 31 years. And that is the ncpa.org. Could you tell us a little bit more about what they do, what your goals are over there? Sure, and right, www.ncpa.org is the website. We're the National Center for Policy Analysis. It has been around for 31 years as a free market, private sector solutions to some of these public sector government issues. We think that that's the way that we can restore our economy and secure our energy resources and also promote our strong national defense. So we focus on tax and entitlement policy, education, healthcare, energy, and now that I'm here, we can do more in the realm of national security, which, as you know, what just recently happened down in Boston, Massachusetts, national security, and we see what the spread of militant Islamic jihadism is becoming more of a pressing issue for the American people. So we got about 20 to 23
on staff down here in Dallas, 3 in Washington, D.C., and then another 15 to 20 research fellows and academics that do writing, work, and research for us. And so we are constantly busy. So please visit us at ncpa.org.
You know, you brought up what's happening in Boston, or what happened in Boston recently. They shot a suspect. They arrested a couple more. And at the same time, we're seeing what ISIS is accompanying or accomplishing out in Iraq. And from your perspective, do you see how bad this administration's policy is, and do you think that we've totally unraveled from the original footprint and policy that we've gained over there under the Bush administration?
Well, absolutely, and I can't, today you had a very delusional statement from the House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, who tried to blame General David Petraeus. General David Petraeus did what the operational theater commander was supposed to do. He had victory, and we had defeated al-Qaeda in Iraq. And I served in Iraq in 2003. I was in Afghanistan from 2005 to 2007 as a civilian military advisor to the Afghan army. So we had made incredible gains. But when you have an intransigent ideologue, such as President Obama, who believes that national security strategy should be based upon campaign promises and not the reality of the enemy, then all of a sudden you steal victory from the jaws, you steal defeat from the jaws of victory. And so we now see that the vacuum that was created, and he touted as what was going to be a great accomplishment, ISIS, the Islamic State, has come in, and they have huge swaths of territory extending from Syria to Iraq, but their influence is growing all across the globe. As a matter of fact, the United Nations report last week said that in the last 9 months, ISIS has grown by 70%, and they are recruiting in 100 different countries. And it was very odd that just yesterday, the Deputy Secretary of State comes out and he gives a battle damage assessment saying that our airstrikes have killed 10,000 ISIS fighters, but then when they are asked about the means by which they could get that assessment, no one seems to have any clue about where that number came from. So this is just the smoke and mirrors of this administration, who refuses to admit that their strategy to deal with Islamic jihadism and terrorism is failing.
Now, this is an administration that's also trying to put together a nuclear deal with Iran, and everybody knows they are a major sponsor of terror. And it just came out that Iran has more processed nuclear material than we originally thought. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is absolutely accurate. That came from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Administration, through the United Nations. They do the monitoring. Since we have gone into these quote-unquote negotiations with Iran over the past 18 months, we have seen a 20% increase of enriched uranium. And this is something, once again, that I believe in February of this year, President Obama said that they had frozen this enrichment, and this was not continuing on. And we know that the Supreme Leader has said, number one, he wants the sanctions to immediately stop. Number two, he will not have any type of inspections of military installations. There will not be what we call snap inspections or surprise inspections. So basically, they're saying that they're going to continue to do whatever the heck they want. And he has said that there's nothing not a damn thing the United States can do about that. Why are we sitting at a table, Rod, talking about negotiating with a country that is holding 4 Americans hostage? Jason Reznian, who is the Washington Post reporter, Robert Livingston, a former CIA FBI agent, Amir Hekmati, a former United States Marine, and Saeed Abedini, an American pastor. They're being held by Iran. Why are we sitting down and talking with a country that, their supreme leader is joining in chants of death to America and death to Israel? This is unconscionable.
They have 4 Americans currently. It seems that the number 4 is recurring. I do believe that back in the late 70s under then President Carter, there were 444 Americans that were held hostage by the same state.
Well, those were the days. Those were the days that they were held.
Oh, that was
those were the those were the days that they were held. And amazingly enough, when Ronald Reagan won election, not when he was sworn in, but when he won the election over against Jimmy Carter, they were released. And see, that's what they understand in that part of the world, Rod, is strength and might, resolve. Recently when the president had his Middle Eastern summit and he invited 6 the 6 member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council. And 4 of them said, you know what, we're not coming. And as a matter of fact, one of them, instead of coming to sit down with the President of the United States at Camp David, he went to a horse race with the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. So when the President stands and talks about how great the respect that he has, brought back to the United States of America, ask Vladimir Putin, ask, the Ayatollah Khamenei, ask the ISIS fighters, ask, Boko Haram, ask the Taliban, ask Xi Jinping of China, who have built man-made islands and are emplacing artillery on those islands. And those islands are right in the transit of about 30% of the sea lanes of commerce for the world. We don't have regard and respect in the world because this president draws red lines and then all of a sudden they don't exist.
Well, Colonel, he said that we are now, once again, the most respected nation on the planet. So you're not buying into that one.
No, I'm not buying into that. And look, I grew up in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia. If a bully respects you, he doesn't pick on you. We are being picked on left and right. Our allies do not trust us. They have no confidence in us, and our enemies are emboldened. So, when I hear the president say these things, or, when I hear the president say that he is the closest to a Jewish president that has ever existed, I don't know what kind of mystical world President Obama is living in to say these things, because everyone knows they're not true. I mean, here's a president who sent campaign operatives over to work against Prime Minister Netanyahu. We know about the disregard and disrespect that he gave to him when he came over to give the joint session of Congress speech. We know about the fact that during the last conflagration against Hamas, President Obama threatened to cut off the supply of Hellfire missiles to Israel. So why is he sitting around trying to make us believe, things that we know are truly untrue?
No, well, he's just truly delusional. We had this type of leadership back in ancient Rome and Nero, where the man just went totally crazy. He was first.
Yeah, he was fiddling while it burned, and so we have a president that's golfing while our country and indeed the world is burning.
Doing the same thing, yes, modern times. Now, going back to the Middle East a little bit, you have our allies, as they are, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt, and I do believe there might be a couple of others joining them soon, who are actually holding conversations with Israel in order to try to contain not only ISIS, but Iran.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, between Egypt and think about the fact that the Obama administration fully embraced Mohammed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood government in Egypt, but since they were deposed by now President, former General El-Sisi, the Obama administration has really given Egypt a cold shoulder, and they're trying to stand up and fight. The UAE is standing up and fighting. Jordan, who after the horrific, heinous burning of their combat pilot, King Abdullah flew back and they started their attacks against ISIS positions, and they asked the United States for munitions and fuel for their fighters, and they did not get it. Egypt wants intelligence sharing. They're not getting it. Saudi Arabia, when they decided to bomb the Houthi rebels who are backed by Iran and Yemen, they basically gave the United States of America about, 2 to 4 hours of notice before they started those attacks. Now, I'm glad to see these countries stepping up to the plate, but the fact that they are, being disregarded and they are not coming to meet with the president, or they don't feel that they need to, say anything or let the American president know the actions that they're taking, that's a huge reflection of the lack of regard and respect that they have for our president and for this country right now.
Now, you're down in Texas and, on our southern border, and there's been a lot of talk about, now I know that Saudi Arabia is starting to build a wall in order to try to slow down and keep out ISIS out of Saudi Arabia. And we're not doing that. We're not building our wall. We're not securing our border, but yet we found that there's at least one, possibly two, and if there's two, there's definitely more bases, terrorist training camps on the Mexico side of the border. One of them, within 8 miles of our border. what is it going to take for us to wake up? Are the states, is Texas and Arizona and California going to have to go this alone and secure the border themselves, or what's it going to take?
Well, unfortunately, it may take another catastrophic event. There is no doubt that by the Constitution, the states have the right to be able to secure their borders and secure their population, their people, and their citizenry. You look at the State Department that just put out the alert warning for all the violence that is going on down south of our border in Mexico, and, telling our consulates and even the embassy down there to be prepared. The Mexican drug cartels, as long as you have the money, they will do whatever you want, and they will provide the safe passage for militant Islamic terrorists to come across our very porous border to get into this country. And when you talk and understand that the Border Patrol is operating some 50 or 60 miles back off the border, that's not how you secure a border. You secure a border by being on that border, having good eyes and surveillance on that border at critical crossings. And we do need to have some type of barrier that can canalize and channelize people into certain areas where we can have the proper amount of aerial and ground surveillance, and we're not doing anything of the nature. As a matter of fact, the report just came out today that the administration has released some 3,700 threat level 1 illegal immigrants. These are violent felony type of individuals, and this is the type of thing that they say they weren't doing, and then we find out they're doing. It is, again, Rod, you just wonder, whose side are these guys on?
Now, with the border being that open, and ICE is telling us that they have operatives in at least 15 states, and we know that we've caught, like you said, some very violent people who aren't all Latino, by the way. Some of them have been Middle Eastern. Is it really likely now, especially with Iran having more nuclear material than we originally thought, is a real and present danger now of a dirty bomb being entered into the United States and detonated?
Well, of course it is. It's not just into the United States. It's anywhere in any major Western civilizational capital or population center. And, so many people are under this belief that it has to be some, Oppenheimer type of nuclear bomb, much the same as dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But if someone can put a device in a suitcase and detonate it in, Dallas or in any major urban center, that's very effective. But even more so, we just wrote an op-ed piece here from out of the NCPA about the threat of electromagnetic pulse. What happens if from a ship you can shoot and detonate a nuclear device in the high-level atmosphere, let's say over the East Coast? I hate to tell you, Rod, that knocks out your power grid right now that we are not doing anything to protect or secure. And so those threats are very viable. And these are the type of things that we need to have an administration, thinking and talking about. Instead, we have Hillary Clinton in Houston, Texas, talking about voting rights when minority voting rights have increased since the 2008 presidential election. And we have a president who is, talking about now, I just read the report, that we're going to resume releasing unlawful enemy combatants from Guantanamo, which you would have thought after these 5 Taliban that they scrambled to, get them to stay in place in Qatar, we would freeze any of this releasing from Gitmo. But that's not what you do if you're an intransigent ideologue.
No, yeah, I have, I'm beside myself trying to figure out this current president, and I'm a little beside myself in trying to figure out who the Democrats are trying to put forward. They have a very weak field, I believe, as far as what they're putting forth. Yeah.
It's an extremely weak hand. If they were playing poker, they are in real trouble. And I think that they're starting to understand that. I mean, if you go over and read some of the lefty blogs and everything, they're not really warmed over to Hillary Clinton. And a lot of the information that is being leaked out on her is not coming from GOP sources. It's coming from the left because they want someone that is more so, along the lines of the Elizabeth Warren. They want to run what I call the political gimmick candidate, the first of something, the first black president, the first female president. But they want someone that's going to continue on this far-left progressive socialist agenda that President Obama has set us upon.
We are, I guess the Democrats are in trouble. At least I hope so come election time. Colonel, I know you have to run. One last question. It's kind of a sneaky question. Would you consider in the future running for president of the United States of America?
Well, look, I always tell people that, I live my life as best I can by, the words in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, lean not upon your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will guide your path. So, I will be obedient to God and country, and however I can serve this great nation. And if the country needs a really good street sweeper, I'm happy to do that. If it needs a good dog catcher, I'll be happy to do that. I don't know what the future holds for me, and who would have ever thought last year in October I would get a phone call asking me to consider being the president and CEO of this incredible 31-year-old policy center out here in Dallas. So we don't know.
All right. Sir, I really appreciate you joining me here this evening. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we definitely will get a chance to meet when you come up here in October. I really look forward to it.
Yeah, I look forward to that. The 9th and 10th of October, I'll be up there in New Hampshire, and I think Nashua, and then also let's stay in touch and let's do this again.
I would love to. Thank you very much, Colonel. Have a great night.
Thanks, Rod.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, retired United States Army. Really appreciate him giving me the time this evening. And some of the things that he talked about, and look, I've been telling you this before. Now you can start to hear it. It's not just coming from me. We have a porous border. We have a weak president who's nothing more than now at this particular juncture a Nero-esque type of person. He's out there playing golf and basketball all the time, and he's delusional in his thinking that we're now the most respected nation on the planet. I still have no idea where that came from. I am sure that his administration, his handlers, were probably sitting back, in the background, doing a face palm when he said that. People always talk about how stupid George W. Bush was as president. And let's face it, the man was not stupid. But I know that there were plenty of facepalm moments with George W. Bush. So the man was not Ronald Reagan when it came to communicating with the public. He wasn't a wordsmith, let's put it that way. But he wasn't an idiot. Now, we have the same type of thing and same types of facepalm moments coming out of this president, but nobody on the left wants to call him stupid or out of touch. Yet he'll sit there and say that, we're the most, and it looked, when you're looking at the camera and he's looking at people, it looks like he really believes what he's saying. He's not just trying to placate people. That he really believes that somehow we're the most respected nation on the planet again. All the while we have ISIS thumbing their nose at us and telling us, well, we've got operatives in at least 15 of your states, and whenever we want to, we can probably attack and blow up some of your cities. You have China and the South China Sea building islands, as you heard Mr. Colonel West talk about, and putting cannons and airports for military aircraft to land on these islands, and throwing the entire South China Sea in an uproar, including Vietnam. Now, you got to remember, Vietnam was once an ally of China, and now China's doing these types of things, and even is kind of ticking off Vietnam. How do you tick off your own ally? Well, you tick off your own ally when you really don't have an ally, because all you're really trying to do is take over your part of the world. And that has always been Mao's, objective, much as it was, Lenin and Stalin's objective to take over the Western Hemisphere and in Western Europe with the Soviet Union. And those types of factions, now we have that type of faction in Islam where they want to take over the entire world and have a caliphate all over the planet. And those are the types of people that we have to deal with on a daily basis that our president just doesn't seem to get and think are, dangerous to us. Look, hey, 20% more, processed nuclear product in Iran than we previously thought. And I bet you, even though I'm not a betting man, I bet you, nickel to Sunday, that if we actually were able to do a full scope investigation within the borders of Iran, we would find that they have more than 20% more than we originally thought. They probably have a lot. In fact, they're probably closer than we think to having a nuclear bomb, no matter how small. And that doesn't bode well for anybody in the West, folks. Nobody. But yet, we're still the most respected nation on the planet.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up. with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
603-835-8224. Join me here live on The Rod Eccles Show. I am still your lovable host, El Rod, still coming to you live. Hey, look, one of the things that, relating to, there's a couple of things here. I'm going to get to the Hillary Clinton thing. There's a new poll out on Billary and their influence peddling, and some people will think that it's good, but I don't think it's as good as it should be, considering all the information and proof that we have so far on them. But the Air Force, now this is the power of social media, and especially Facebook. Now, apparently, some ISIS boob, let's not call him a boob because he did us a favor. Some ISIS, a member of ISIS, took a selfie and posted it on Facebook. Well, it gave the location of an ISIS headquarters. And after the military, the United States military, caught wind of this and saw it, they figured out where the headquarters was. It's in Iraq. We were in Iraq for years. We bombed Iraq a couple of times, and we rebuilt Iraq once. So it's a pretty good shot that we would know by looking at pictures, that somebody would recognize it and say, "Oh, we know where that is." And so the United States Air Force went and promptly bombed and destroyed an ISIS headquarters off of a moronic post, selfie. Look, this whole notion that I guess it's even, this is why even, places like Iran want to ban things like Facebook, because people get on this kick that they need to be somehow famous. And they need to self-promote themselves. Because I am just a little side note here. I got to tell you, it is, especially when you're talking about the millennials, people under the age of 30. I am amazed. Now, I understand I don't take selfies, really. I don't take selfies. I just don't. They're kind of awkward, I think, to me. And I understand every once in a while you want to, change a picture or show where you're at. And, obviously like this terrorist moron. And that's kind of okay, but this whole notion that every single day you got to take multiple selfies of yourself, driving a car. I could care less if you're driving your car. Why do you got to take a selfie of you in your car? You're not doing anything special. Oh, yeah, heading to work, click. Well, thank you for that. Do we really need to know? I just want to tell you, if you take nothing but selfies of yourself and you don't put pictures up that other people have taken of you, you've got a problem. You need to get out more. You need to connect in reality more with your friends and family. Because if all you can do is take a selfie, and don't get me wrong, I see some of my friends on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. Yes, I have an Instagram account. I know it's kind of weird. I don't know how to really use it, so for myself. But I'm not going to take a bunch of selfies. I just don't understand why that's necessary. I don't get it. I don't get this need for for self-fame, this need for celebrity. There's no money in most. Well, I guess that's different. You know, I got to tell you, I have been getting people who have been, you know, taking me to task about this Caitlyn Bruce Jenner thing. Now, I thought I said my piece, and that was going to be it. But boy, was I wrong on that one. I was wrong. Not about what I said. I was right about him. Whatever. I was wrong in thinking that I would be able to leave it behind, say my piece and leave it behind, and that would be it. Man, I was wrong about that. Because I said that this person, Bruce Jenner, is not brave and is not a hero to anyone with all of this craziness with this transitional tranny whatever stuff. And I thought I made my point very clear. Look, whether or not you agree with the lifestyle, and whether or not you like them or not, transvestites, if you will, trannies, who, men who have been changing themselves with makeup and surgery for years, have gone out in cities that are quite dangerous for them to go out on the street looking the way that they look. And we know that some of them have been severely beaten and even killed simply because of who they are. Now, they're not heroes for what they're doing, but they are a lot more brave than a wealthy, former Olympic star that married into a family who's famous for being famous. If Bruce Jenner had not married Kris Jenner, would we really care about him coming out as Caitlyn Jenner now? I don't think so. I don't think he's all that brave, really. You're behind the celebrity wall where people can't reach you most of the time anyway. So what is so brave about that? What's brave is if you live in New York City, or if you live in like Shanghai, or you live in some place like that, or Malaysia or something, and you're a man and you dress up as a woman, you go out on the street and you're risking your life and limb literally when you're out on the street. That's kind of brave. Some people might say that's kind of stupid, but that's a lot more brave than what Bruce Jenner did. Sitting in front of, lights and cameras and discussing, I feel like I'm a woman. And I've always felt like I'm a woman. And then all of a sudden coming out with this Vanity Fair picture that makes you kind of look like a movie star. It's Jessica Lange back in her glory days. I don't think that that's brave at all. It's not brave. And look, notice I took out the equation of other brave people, like soldiers and first responders. Those people are brave and they're heroes. But I'm just talking about being brave and understanding the true meaning. See, the problem is that we're changing the meaning of words all the time, and nobody really knows what the words of brave, bravery, and hero really mean anymore. So it comes to mean whatever somebody wants it to mean in this social myopia. That's what I call. Now, as I said, there's a professor of psychiatry out there who says that transgenderism is a mental illness. Now, I know that we've used to have the whole thing about gays, but let's face it. For some people, it is a choice. And when you have, when it comes to transgender, when you have the rate of suicide is higher after their transformation than before, there's something wrong there. Something severely wrong. And you know what? That's all I'm going to say about Caitlyn Bruce Caitlyn Jenner. I don't care. Call her whatever you want. There's more important things to discuss. Like 3,700, as Colonel West mentioned, 3,700 illegal immigrants. Threat level 1 criminals released into U.S. by Homeland Security. Look, folks, this is why we need our Second Amendment rights, because it's going to become the Old West. And it's going to be, and look, it's simply because our government is not doing its job in keeping the public safe. And every time our states want to keep their citizens safe, well, the Obama administration is suing them, or wants to sue them, or threatens to sue them. And I say, enough of this. What the hell is going on in Washington, D.C.? Why is there such hate and animosity towards the American people? And why do so many people on the left are not seeing this? I mean, it is one thing to say that, we need Bernie Sanders to give us socialism and that type of thing, but it is a totally other thing when you are trying to destroy your own country from within. I'm not talking about knocking it down a peg. I'm not talking about, not making it so it is not an economic and military superpower anymore. It has gone beyond. I'm talking about total and complete and utter destruction of our society. Plain and simple. This is what these people seem to want, or this administration anyway. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out how he can find so many people to put in power and put in place in these cabinet positions, in secretary positions, that agree with him, that go along with what he's doing. Because, if you disagree with the president strongly about something, if you say that, no, Mr. President, this is endangering the welfare and the well-being of the men, women, and children of this country, I will not do it. And I will not resign. You'll have to fire me. That's pretty much how you do it. But no, we've got these people who go along willy-nilly and say, like Loretta Lynch, yeah, whatever the president says, I'll do. Are you kidding me? Where do we find this many boobs, airheads, nut jobs, self-loathing, self-hating people? I don't know where we're finding them all. And I didn't realize that there were really so many in this country that were willing to take the reins like that. But 3,700 illegal immigrants of threat level 1? Criminality being released onto our streets? Not even most of them not even being sent back to the country from whence they came. Just being, hey, they're illegal. They'll find their way back home. Right, we know, and yet we're told that we cannot round up, a bunch of illegals. Well, obviously not if you keep releasing them. You're not sending them back. You keep finding and catching the same ones over and over again. Well, that gets kind of expensive and boring. Look, folks, it has come to the point where we have to understand that our federal government can't keep us safe. They really can't. Look, we just had a data breach of federal personnel data. Now, the Office of Personnel Management and Interior Department got hacked successfully. So, who's on, all of the people that work for these departments, they're now exposed. Even those people who might be less than public knowledge that they're in certain positions are now exposed. Because, you are talking about the Interior Department. You're talking of personnel management. Basically the human resources department of the federal government got hacked. What are you going to do about that, Mr. President? Are you going to go and consider and still say that we're the most respected and we're safe? Are you going to play? You know what? Somebody should just ask the president, Mr. President. We're living in a very dangerous time right now, where we have ISIS, threatening some of our allies, some of our close allies. We have open borders, and we have economic problems and all sorts of issues. We've got Putin over in Russia doing things to Ukraine. We've got China threatening in the South China Sea. Mr. President, for the remainder of your tenure in office, Can you stay at the White House and run the country and be the leader and stay off the golf course? Somebody should ask him that. I'd ask him that if I could get in there. I really would. And I know the reason why I will never be allowed in the White House press corps. It isn't because I don't have credentials. It's because I would ask questions like that. And they don't want questions like that asked. In fact, when we see the White House, if the press corps asks the president or others in the White House some really straightforward, tough questions, they get upset, as if to say, how dare you ask us those kind of questions? How dare you ask us serious questions? And they get indignant about it. I've never seen an administration get so indignant about reporters actually doing their job by asking real and tough questions. I have never seen an administration get this upset this often. And that's from the president on down. And it's gotten to the point where now that even some, of the left-leaning journalists, and I use that term very loosely, are starting to say, hey, you really should answer our questions now. And people who are asking the questions, there's a lot less animosity towards the people who are asking those tough questions. They're not running cover for the president anymore. They're not saying, no, let it alone, sit down. What are you doing asking that question for? You're being rude or what have you. There's less and less of that happening. I know every once in a while you hear, well, you let them finish the question or answering the question. There's less of that. And I think that's happening more to protect Hillary now than it is Obama. And because you're getting the left that is, well, they're trying to say, well, we gotta come up with some way to bring Hillary to the forefront because she's fallen fast. She's really falling fast. This is supposed to be a slam dunk for her. Now it's not a slam dunk. And it is in such dire straits. It is in such dire straits. That they're looking for. Look, you got Lincoln Chafee that just jumped into the race. I mean, really? O'Malley and now Chafee? These are in your other strong candidate, I guess, is Bernie Sanders out of Vermont. So, really? And then you also have them wanting to draft Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren. I don't. It is unbelievable. You would think that they would have somebody in backup. Somebody with a better name recognition, better cred, who's had more accomplishments than and has a little bit stronger of a chance of actually winning the White House than the current field of Democrats are fielding right now. I mean, I can't remember the last time the field of Democrats was this weak. Now, don't get me wrong. It does not mean that they cannot pull out a win. Because, the Republicans have been known to self-destruct before. Happens. And that's it. I do not fear Hillary winning. What I fear is Republicans self-imploding. And, look, just as the last time around, the election and the nomination this time around was Hillary's to lose, and she's losing it. So likewise, the presidency to be gained in 2016 is there for the taking. Just to pick it up by the Republicans. They can't lose it. Well, they can lose it. But it isn't going to be based on a very strong Democratic contender. The way that the Republicans would possibly lose the White House race in 2016 is if they lose it. It's theirs to lose. Plain and simple. And if they implode and blow it up, that's the only way that they're not going to win it. There is nobody on the left side that should even come close. I mean, really. If it's Hillary, it should be the biggest landslide in the history of landslides in this country. If it's any of the others, they're so weak. O'Malley, Chafee, Sanders? Really? The man is 78 years old. And he's a kook. And he's a communist. It's kind of like running Ralph Nader. This is I don't know. Well, we still have a lot of time left between now and the nomination process is done and the election comes. Still have a lot of time. The Democrats could end up finding and throwing up a very strong and powerful contender. Don't know who that is. I don't know who it is. Maybe other people know who it is, but I haven't really been looking because, who's it? Joe Biden? Really, it does. If they throw up Elizabeth Warren, man, she's also going to be wide open on a national basis. She should have been beat by Mitt Romney, but it is what it is there. Or was it Mitt? No, I'm sorry, it's Scott Brown. She should have been beat by Scott Brown. But that is what it is. Again, that was really a race for Scott Brown to lose. Scott Brown had that race in Mass, and he lost it. He blew it. And then he tried to regroup and move to New Hampshire and then take on Gene Shaheen, and he lost it there too. Well, and that's the Republicans' fault. You don't do a retread like that. We could have beaten Gene Shaheen if the Republicans hadn't just given the nomination to Scott Brown. See, this is how they lose things. They do stupid stuff like that. Now, as long as they don't do something stupid, is a very good, then we're going to have the White House in 2016. But that's the thing that I fear, is Republicans doing something stupid. Because they always seem to do that. When you least expect it, expect them to do something stupid. And they'll do something stupid enough to piss off the voters and to blow up their chances of gaining a great victory. That's plain and simple. They've done it before, and they will do it again. They've done it plenty, but there's a plethora of times you can go back in history over the past century and see the Republicans, blowing themselves up, basically. When they had a win, and they screwed it up and blew it up. And then you have, then they whine and complain and say, well, see, nobody wants the conservatives. Well, that's not true. Yeah, the people do want a conservative, true conservative, because you can't be a wannabe liberal. Because if somebody's going to choose between a true liberal and a liberal light, they're going to go for the true liberal every time. Why? It's like Coke's the real thing, right? So why go for the imitation when you can have the real thing? By the way, I prefer Pepsi. Why go for the imitation when you can have the real thing? Why go for the light or diet version when you can have the real thing? So as long as the Republicans don't do anything stupid, then they can easily retain the House, retain the Senate, maybe even pick up a seat or two, and win the White House. It's theirs for the asking. All they have to do is just take it, not screw it up. Because who else are they going to... Well, really? The only way that Hillary becomes a strong contender is if she wins the Democratic nomination and Republicans, because she's a woman, do not attack her on her record. Any of her record. Including that as a Secretary of State, including that as Senator of the state of New York, including that as First Lady, including that as First Lady of the state of Arkansas. I know it's Arkansas, but I like saying Arkansas. It's sassy to say Arkansas. In her time at the Rose Law Firm and all that, look, people who meet this woman and work close with her, we're finding out these people don't like her very much. There's a lot of people out there that Hillary Clinton has worked with closely in the past that don't like her because she's just a nasty woman. So, if you're a Republican, that's what you got to hit on. Her record and her nastiness. You'll win every time.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans. It is I, your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. It is Thursday, June the 4th, in the year of our Lord, 2015. The number that you can call this evening is 603-835-3224. That is a toll-free number, 603-835-3224. And, yeah, I did check again today about the state motto, and it is still live free or die. It has not changed. And when it does change, I will let you know. But I check almost every day. And I pray that it never changes. One of the things, well, here's a Washington Times story. It's a Washington Times piece. And it's about the Clintons. You know, it's about Billary. And some people are probably saying, Billary? Who the hell is Bill? Well, it's Bill and Hillary. Billary. It's better. It sounds better than Hillbill or Bill Hill. So Billary. I know, and it's and of course some people, you know, have come to call Mrs. Clinton as hilarious, Hilarious Clinton, which is her own personal pet name, and I stole it from somebody, and I'm not telling you who, because I did not invent it, but because, you know, there is this thing that if you say it once and you give the person credit, that's good. Then you can say it the second time and you can say somebody else did it. And the third time that you say it, then it can be yours. So this is like the 4th or 5th time I've said it. So I guess protocol says that I don't have to mention who really invented the term or the nickname Hillary or Hilarious Clinton. But and I have no idea who came up with the term or the nickname Billary, but I also like that. But here's a poll about Billary, especially about hilarious. About 6 in 10 registered voters think it's likely that the Clintons were selling influence to foreign contributors who made donations to the nonprofit organization founded by former President Bill Clinton. Only 6 in 10? Only 60%? But where is the other 4 in 10? What rock are you living under? You 4 in 10 people. Now, it says the former Secretary of State, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Clinton's presidential campaign, has been forced to push back on reports involving the Clinton Foundation's acceptance of financial donations from foreign governments while she was serving as the nation's top diplomat. And they were peddling influence all over the place, including in such, benign places as Sweden. Yeah, Sweden, the home of the Swedish chef from the Muppets. The Clinton Foundation's Swedish fundraising arm cashed in as Stockholm lobbied Hillary on sanctions. I didn't even know that there were sanctions on Sweden, I got to tell you. I didn't know that during the Obama administration there were sanctions on why? Well, that's irrelevant at the moment. The whole point is that they donated to the Billary Family Foundation, and then lobbied Hillary and expected some influence in getting all that change. Now, 61% think it's very or somewhat likely the Clintons were selling influence to the foreign contributors, while 33% thought it was not very or not at all likely. I don't know where these 33%, 33 out of 100 people. Think of it that way. I don't know where they're living. Are they watching the same liberal news that the rest of us are watching? Because even the liberals are saying, well, there might be something there. Geez, Hillary, you got to come clean with this kind of crap. Put it to bed already, please. You got people on the left who are begging this woman to come, just to put it all to rest. Because some of them, they truly do not believe that she did it, but some of them don't care that she did it. They just want her to, put it to rest and clean it up and get rid of it so they can move on with the campaign. But that's the whole point. They know that all this stuff happened, and even the left wants her to come clean about it. I have the most transparent State Department in history. Now, I don't know where she even comes close to even think. Well, I guess because Obama has the most transparent administration in history, I guess, but. Though she remains the overwhelming favorite in the contest for the Democratic presidential nomination, Mrs. Clinton numbers have also dropped a bit compared to several weeks ago. She sits atop a Democratic field with 57% of the vote, followed by Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont at 11%, Vice President Joseph Biden at 8%, who hasn't even gotten in the race, and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts at 7%, who also hasn't gotten in the race, and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley at 4%, who just got in the race. So all of this stuff about her sitting at the top is a bunch of bunk, because Martin O'Malley and Lincoln Chafee have just gotten in the race. They haven't even begun to campaign, and yet we're supposed to believe that Mrs. Clinton is still sitting on top of this massive mountain of voters that just won't leave her. They're going to support her come hell or high water, come what may. She's going to... No, not necessarily so. Now, a survey taken May 9th through 12th, she was at 63%, followed by Warren at 13%. Really? So now Warren has fallen off. Warren has fallen off? I guess she really isn't going to run. No, you know, she's the one that said, well, do I got to put an exclamation point on me saying that I'm not running? She said it. And I have said that I didn't believe that she was going to be getting into it unless something really drastic changed. I don't think she was going to get into the race. But who knows? Maybe this is something that is going to drastically change, like Hillary being forced to drop out at some point. I'm not sure. I don't think, there are a lot of people saying that they don't believe that she wants to be in the race anymore. That this is just too much and too painful, but she has to because she owes too many favors to too many people because they've taken too much money. So she has to at least make it look, well, if she has to stay in the race and make it look like that she's running, she's not doing a very good job of making it look like she's running because it doesn't look like she really is. I'm serious. I don't know. If I were her, I'd be out there pressing the flesh pretty damn hard. Just pounding the pavement. Because, you can, remembering that she got, smarted very hard and badly back in 08 and 09 with Obama. Yeah, it's Hillary's. Yeah, she's going to be the nominee and for the Democrat Party. And all of a sudden, here comes this tall, skinny, no experienced chap out of Illinois that just took it from her and became president. Now, but she's got this issue that she does need to put to rest the issue of the emails. She's got to get rid of that email issue. She can't keep bringing that email thing around with her because it's bringing her down. People are not they're not very happy. And as a matter of fact, here's something from the Politico from Josh Gerstein piece. Dems and Gowdy spar over Hillary Clinton emails. Now, Democratic lawmakers use a hearing on government transparency I love this thing, government transparency. Who do these people think they're trying to kid here? There is no government transparency. Especially when you're, when you have these meetings in the dark of night and people can't talk about bills that they're, the language and bills that they're reading and going to vote on and all that kind of, there's no transparency. Really. But Democratic lawmakers used a hearing on government transparency Tuesday to defend a Democratic presidential candidate and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by pointing to the email practices of former state secretaries of state Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice. Now, Stephen Lynch, a Democrat out of Mass, asked, do we have any emails from Secretary Powell? Well, Secretary Powell and Secretary Rice are not under fire for possibly having sold and peddled influence in exchange for donations to a family foundation or charity in which especially they are being enriched by. I love how they try to obfuscate this. See, the whole notion that, we don't have any emails of Colin Powell. Well, Secretary Powell, he's not under suspicion of doing anything, one, illegal, or not under the suspicion of, two, hiding anything. And you can better believe that if he was, they would be demanding his emails just as hard as we're demanding Hillary's emails. Now, he asked the House Oversight Committee hearing with top Freedom of Information Act officers from 5 government agencies, including the State Department. Now, we did ask him if he had any official records. Assistant Secretary for Administration Joyce Barr said he did not have any records to return to us. Barr added that some official emails for Rice had been located, but she said she rarely used email at all. So if she didn't use email, how's she going to turn over email? She didn't use it. I love look, you can't compare. Sorry. It was, email is much more prominent today than it was then, even then. Well, it is. I mean, email's been around for a while now. It started out with, AOL, you've got mail. And they even had a movie about it. But it wasn't something that was very prolific. And it wasn't something that government officials used a lot of. This emails are now, it's kind of like texting. It's huge now. It always wasn't that way. But now texting is huge. So you got to ask, what is he trying to compare? There is no comparison. Now with with the current Secretary of State, Kerry, now you can compare Kerry and Clinton and how Kerry handles, his emails, because they're similar. And you could say that maybe the Secretary of State in 2016, after the 2016 election, could compare because they're going to be similar. But only in the fact that it's more prominent now, as it was under Clinton. Not necessarily because there's something that people are going to want to see. I mean, they I don't know. Kerry doesn't have a private email server anywhere as far as we know yet, does he? And, other secretaries of state didn't have private email servers, and they didn't erase them, and they didn't try to keep the emails from people, and they didn't have family foundations, and they weren't accused of peddling influence by selling it to foreign government and foreign agents and foreign operatives. All of this is under Hillary's watch. So, Representative Lynch, Democrat from Massachusetts, you're way out of line. You can't even come close to being relevant with that statement. You can't. You're not. You look like a damn fool. Just going to put it out there. You look like a damn fool. Well, we don't have any emails from Condoleezza Rice or Colin Powell, do we? Well, yeah, hey, Condoleezza Rice, she kind of didn't use email. Oh. And Colin Powell, well, he didn't use a lot of it either, and he didn't have a private email server. Oh, well, they should still turn over their emails. Well, how do you turn over emails that don't exist? Not erased, like in the case of Hillary, but don't exist because they were never written. Hillary once said, while cackling about it, when somebody asked her about if she keeps a journal or a diary, and she said, "Oh, heavens, no, because then it would be subpoenaed." Well, why didn't she ever take her own advice about emails? Why did she? I'm kind of glad that she's got all those emails, but we can't get to them yet. But why didn't she take her own advice? Here's a woman that knew that whatever she wrote down could someday come back to bite her, and yet she still did it with email. Not only did she do with email, she did it on her own server, and she let people know that she had her own server and got caught with her own server and her own. Did she have her own BlackBerry? She had her own cell phone. How do you get away with doing stuff that is so blatantly illegal? It's illegal. You're not, you're a government official. There are laws that take care of that kind of stuff. Just saying. You got, folks. I'm almost speechless because this woman, that woman. This woman is just, she's a craze ball like the current occupant of the Oval Office. She's not going to be any better. She really, I mean, think about it. She's going to be the same kind of radical leftist that Obama is, but she's going to be the female version. She doesn't often seem to be a happy person. And, that cackling laugh often comes across as being forced. Really? I ain't no ways tired. I've come too far from where we were. Really? I mean, if a Republican were to do something like that, the left would jump all over them for trying to make fun of people, of color, really. But she's able to get away with it and connect. How is that? I don't know how that is. I wish I knew how that was, but anyway. Continuing with the story, ranking Democrat Elijah Cummings of Maryland called startling the lack of records from the two Bush-era secretaries. I hope that we look at that era just like we have been looking at the president. They're not getting it. It's not the lack of, it is a lack of records because there aren't any. There aren't any emails. They were never created. Not that they were erased and hidden. They were never created. And this whole notion that, you got to get the same thing from the Republic. It's not the same thing. I mean, if Colin Powell was accused of peddling influence for, donations or what have you, and he was using emails in order to try to hide whatever he was doing, I'd say go for it. Get his email. But one, he didn't try to peddle influence. Two, he has no family foundation that he was peddling influence with or for. And three, he wasn't taking donations from foreign governments and foreign entities and foreign agents. And four, he didn't have a lot of emails to begin with. So the reason why you don't have all their records is one, because you didn't ask for them, and two, they never existed because they were never created in the first place. Kind of like Condoleezza, that's like saying, how come we don't have Bush's BlackBerry records then if we're looking for Obama's? Well, because Bush didn't have a BlackBerry. Well, we don't have any of those records. It's because they don't exist. They were never created. You see the comparison, what they're trying to do, folks? They're trying to obfuscate the fact that under Bush, none of those records are available because those kind of records were not created. Under Obama and Hillary, those types of records were created. So therefore, we're asking for those records we're not asking for stuff that they didn't create. I mean, that'd be, okay, well, we want to see what's on Hillary's iPad. Well, maybe Hillary didn't have an iPad. If she didn't have an iPad, then those records could not have possibly been created, so there wouldn't be any existence of any records. I mean, that would be stupid. Stupid for the Republicans, and like Gowdy saying, we demand those iPad records. Well, she didn't own an iPad. Well, we demand the records anyway. Well, they were never created. Well, then, damn it, why don't we have their records? Because they never existed. So this is the exact same thing with Bush. They didn't exist because they were never created, because they didn't use those devices the way these people are using these devices. They didn't have their own server, evidently. Their own private server, email server. And look, I'm sure that if Colin Powell did, they'd be all over it and saying, well, where's Colin Powell's email server? Where's Condi Rice's email server? Well, Condi Rice didn't really use email all that often. Good for her. So this whole notion that you're asking for the same records that from them that you're asking from Hillary is ludicrous, because they didn't exist because they were never created. So you can't get nothing from nothing. You can't get something from nothing. Anything times zero is what, folks? Zero, right? You learn that in kind of like, I think, in mathematics in third grade when you're learning your multiplication table. If you take any number and multiply it by zero, what's the answer? Zero. So, same thing with the electronic records creation. If they never created them, then guess what? They don't exist. And if they don't exist, you can't get them. It's not that somebody hid them or tried to erase them. They were just never created. Zip, zero, zilch, nada. So the answer's zero. Get over it. Hillary's guilty.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
And we are back. Hey, a Pasco teacher, and for those of you who don't know where Pasco is, this is in Florida, in the Tampa Bay, Sarasota area. And this is a WTSP.com story. Pasco teacher suspended. Now, you won't believe why this teacher was suspended. This teacher was suspended for trying to get control of his classroom. I kid you not. He was trying to get control of his classroom. And he was trying to get control of his classroom because the students there were obviously ignoring and disrupting the class with their cell phones. So the teacher, who happens to be a science teacher, thought that he would do something rather unique and novel. Now, of course, it turned out to be slightly illegal, but he got caught and he got suspended for using a jamming device, a cell phone jamming device in his classroom. Now, here's the story. A science teacher fed up with students on their phones in class is now jammed up with the school district. A Pasco County instructor is busted using a cell phone jamming device in his classroom. Now, Dean Liptak, Liptak, says he was trying to get students to focus on the lesson and not on their phones at Fivay, Fivay High School in Hudson, Florida. Now, it costs Liptak a 5-day suspension without pay. It's also illegal, but the district says that Verizon chose not to prosecute him. Now, the district is concerned. Now, you got to. This is the funny part. It's not funny. I mean, it's an awful thing to even think about. But this is what some of the people are saying about it. Now, the district is concerned that the device, the jammer, puts students' safety in danger. The student safety is in danger because they can't make a phone call or get phone calls. Yeah, I kid you not. Now, Liptak tells the district he only thought the cell phone jammer would impact his classroom and get his students to put down their phones and pay attention. Now, the illegal device impacted a lot more than that. They usually do. And the district says this isn't the first questionable decision by this teacher. Now, Verizon had come to the school saying someone had a jamming device because the cell phone service was being interrupted in the area. And here's why. A Pasco County School District spokeswoman, Linda Kobe, says Liptak's jamming device blocked communication to the cell tower on the 5A high school campus. What the hell is a cell tower doing on the campus? So the kids can get a stronger signal? Look, I fully, I understand that rent has to be paid for. Look, you don't put cell towers on public school property. Now, if you're going to use the old saying that, well, if he's jamming that because it could be a safety issue. Well, what the hell do you think is going to be a target at the start of a war? A communications tower. What do you think is going to be a target for, say, some terrorist groups? A communications tower. And if you think that, well, we have way too many cell towers to be targeted, you better think again. If you knock out a few strategically, now I don't know which ones are strategic, but if somebody's studying the whole thing, if you knock out a few strategic ones, you knock out a whole bunch of them. Because there are a lot of towers that are not full towers, they're repeaters. In other words, they're amplifying a signal from another tower. So they're not a full. So if you knock out the tower, then the repeaters don't work. See what I'm saying? And that's just common. Look, I know that kind of thing from working in the paging industry back in the 90s. The same thing was happening. They had these towers, and they had these repeater towers because they were cheaper and easier and faster to put up and maintain than a full-fledged tower. And they were pointing towards a full-fledged tower, and they amplified the signal of that tower farther. Saves money. But if you knock out that main tower, that repeater isn't going to work because it's tied to the tower. And now they say the consequences could have been dire. It was jamming the signal, so 911 calls couldn't be made. It would affect an emergency in the school. What's wrong with a landline? School still has a landline. Now, here's another saying. Somebody else said about it. God forbid if a child is under a desk because there's a gunman in there, I would want him to reach into his pocket for his cell phone, says parent Marty Cornell. Are you worried about guns in your school? You worried about the safety of your child because you think that some gunman's going to come in there? But you don't think that some terrorist isn't going to want to knock out the cell tower? All right. Now, Liptick said that says he talked with a deputy who apparently told him the jammers are only illegal when used with bad intentions. No, that's not true at all. It's against FCC laws. You can't be jamming people's signals for anything, for any reason. And look, I'm not condoning jamming cell phone signals in your classroom, but I am saying that there's a problem when this teacher goes to this length to get control of his class. And parents are more worried about a gunman coming to the school and their kid being under a desk and not being able to make a cell phone call. Hey, parents, how about the teacher was so frustrated because your kids were using cell phones in the classroom? Nobody's thinking of that. Nobody's talking about, well, this teacher felt so powerless to stop it that the only thing he could come up with was a jammer. Why isn't anybody talking about that? They're all talking about, well, the kid's safety was no, the kid's safety. Are they paying attention to anything when they're on the phone? No. That's why, that's why people walk into things when they're on their phones. You ever see people try to walk and text or surf the web while they're while walking down the street? It's hilarious. I see people do it all the time. They'll walk into a tree or a lamp pole. I've walked into a tree. I've never walked into anything while looking at my phone, though. But I have walked into a tree, and I have walked into a door that I thought was open because I wasn't paying attention because I was looking at something else. Not my phone, but I was looking at something else that was going on in the street. But if that can it is kind of embarrassing. I'll admit it. But I see people do it all the time, walking into the street lamps and posts and trees and doors and buildings because they're looking at their cell phone, not where they're going. And they're looking in such a manner where their head is fully down. I mean, I'm always amazed at how people just sort of disconnect from the world around them by looking all the way down on their phone. I mean, their head is like looking on if you remove the phone, they'd be looking at their feet. That's how far their head is down. Now, when I look at my phone when I'm walking, I hold my phone up. So if you took away the phone, whatever my eyes would be focused on next isn't my feet, it's out in front of me. But people tend to look, when the people that tend to look all the way down at their feet with their phone, they're the ones that are running into stuff. Because they can't focus and they're not paying attention, and the whole world is blocked out. But if you hold your phone up as you're walking, you get a picture of all sorts of things around you. I mean, you're still not 100% focused on the things around you, but you're most likely not going to walk into a tree or a building or something. But let me tell you, when you're in class, what is the thing that you're not holding the phone up because you want to hide it? You want to hide it from the teacher, because if you're holding it up so you can be looking at the teacher and your phone at the same time, your teacher's going to either take the phone away or tell you to put it away. So you're going to hide it. So you're going to try to have it in between your legs and below the desk, and it's going to cause your head to go all the way down, which means you're going to block out the rest of the world, including your teacher. And this teacher was probably experiencing just that. So instead of people, coming to terms and saying, well, let's address this problem in the school, they were probably telling the teacher, hey, it's your class, teach it. And he was probably saying, well, I can't because, all these kids are on their phones. Well, just teach class anyway. So he was probably frustrated. Not condoning his actions, just saying that there's a bigger problem there. Always, and they're, they just want to blame the teacher on this one. Hello? I don't think it's just the teacher's fault in this case. You got to look past it. There's a lot more, a lot more there. GOP-led House votes to keep restrictions on travel to Cuba. I have mixed feelings on this. Look, our travel bans and trade embargo on Cuba is, I know some people say, well, obviously it's working because the Cuban people are still in poverty, but that's the point. The Cuban people are still in poverty, and the government of Cuba is not suffering at all. And it has nothing to do with, we're the only nation left that's got some sort of sanctions against Cuba. The point is that this is a harsh dictatorial communist regime that just isn't going to give up power, and they'll do whatever it takes in order to funnel the money that they need into their coffers and keep the Communist Party and communist rule going. Now, House Republicans voted Thursday. This is a Newsmax.com story. House Republicans voted Thursday to keep restrictions on Americans seeking to travel to Cuba, a setback to Obama administration efforts to ease the 5-decade Cold War standoff. There is no standoff. I love this part. There's no standoff. I mean, in order for there to be a standoff, there has to be, equality here. If we wanted to just thump Cuba and just take it over, we could do it. It would be kind of like going into Iraq. Only it would be easier because it's only 90 miles off of our Florida coast. I mean, it would be so much easier just to thwack the Castros and bump them out and set something in place. Now, of course, there would be ramifications later to have to deal with, with Russia and Venezuela and other things. But just to take over Cuba, it's not a difficult thing. Would not be difficult. Just a quick, and a lot of the people in Cuba would be like a lot of people in Iraq. They'd welcome us to do that. It wouldn't take much for us to thwack the Castros and then bump them out. But the Republican controlled chamber voted 247 to 176 to keep a Cuba-related provision in a transportation funding bill. The provision would block new rules issued in January that would significantly ease travel restrictions to Cuba. and allow regularly scheduled flights for the first time in over 50 years. Now, the administration rules lifted a requirement that U.S. travelers obtain a license from the Treasury Department before traveling to Cuba. Instead, all that is required is for travelers to assert that their trip would serve educational, religious, or other permitted purposes. Yeah. So, yeah, we're not going to be able to travel as easy to Cuba as we thought. And indeed, I hear people say, well, Cuba was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. Yeah. Back in its heyday, like in the 50s. People vacationed there. It was a tropical paradise with its Art Deco and it was wonderful. And then they had their so-called revolution, and you had Chavez and then Castro coming to power instead. And they ended up, that's why they have, lots of 50s era Chevys running around. I remember a game. Was it Grand Theft? One of the first Grand Theft Autos. It was one or two. And they had this you could travel in Cuba. And one of the cars in Cuba was like a 57 Chevy. They had a 55 Chevy, I think. And it's all a bunch of Chevys running around in Cuba in Grand Theft Auto. And it was modern. It wasn't like in the 50s. It was modern, but that's the kind of cars. Well, that's what's going on in Cuba. They don't have a lot of new stuff, which is why Raul Castro is looking to get the embargo and sanctions lifted, because he just wants to live in a lap of luxury before he and his brother die. Fidel. Yes, for those of you who didn't know, if you're in Rush Limbaugh's Riolinda, Fidel is Raul Castro's younger brother. Raul is the older of the two. And Raul is now the president of Cuba because Fidel got sick and decided to retire. So, Fidel is late 70s and Raul is early 80s. And I'm sure if Raul passes away, then Fidel will come out of retirement to once again rule with an iron fist over the little island of Cuba, just about 90 miles off of our Floridian coast. Just saying. Here's another story from Newsmax. This should piss you off. I know I like to pick stuff that really ticks people off and get them going, but illegals, IRS says illegals granted amnesty can file for back tax refunds. Say what? Illegal immigrants granted amnesty under President Barack Obama's immigration reform will be able to claim back tax refunds from years in which they never filed taxes, the IRS says. Well, they didn't file taxes because they're illegals. Look, in order for them to file taxes and with them being illegal, don't they have to have a Social Security number? Well, if they're illegal, they're not getting a legal Social Security number. So what are they doing? They're stealing somebody else's Social Security number. So now they've just committed identity fraud. Now, identity fraud is very serious and a very serious crime in this country. And people go to jail for identity fraud. But the IRS is saying, you can commit identity fraud and we'll, under the amnesty rules from Obama, we'll allow you to file your taxes and get a refund from back taxes and, just give us your Social Security number. Well, I have not my Social Security number. It is a fake one. Yeah, we'll take it. That's okay. You'll be good. To clarify earlier comments on the EITC, not only can an individual amend a prior year's return to claim the earned income tax credit, but an individual who did not file a prior year return may file a return and claim the earned income tax credit, subject to refund limitations under Section 6511 of the Internal Revenue Code. This was in a written response request from Senator Chuck Grassley. Now, Grassley released the comments yesterday from the IRS about this very thing. Now, despite the policy, the IRS doesn't think many illegal immigrants will file for back tax returns because they'll have to produce official documentation that shows how much they earned in a given year. Yeah, like that Social Security number that they used, which is a fake or false or stolen security number, which then means identity theft, which means they have to be, caught, which means they're going to be found out that they're illegal, which means they're going to get deported. Well, maybe they won't get deported because, Obama just released 3,700 illegals, Class 1 criminals onto our streets. So maybe, those people who aren't Class 1, they'll get an even better chance of staying here in the U.S. by being put out on the street. You never know. Filers would have to reconstruct earnings and other records for years when they were not able to work on the books. So now they're working off the books. They're possibly filing with fake Social Security numbers. So the IRS is just saying, well, yeah, we're going to condone all kinds of illegal activity here, and then they're going to give them the ability to get the earned income tax credit, which means what? You and I are going to be paying for illegals. That was the whole point, folks. We told you this. The whole point is that, giving them amnesty was a fast track so they could get American dollars. So then they would say, oh, thank you, Mr. Democrat. I vote for you as soon as I can. And then as soon as they get up to speed and they become voting citizens, then they'll vote Democrat. That's the whole point and notion of them doing such things on the left. It's called a voting block. And the left thinks that they can get a huge voting block by getting these people to, hey, how would you also like the government knowing where you are? We know where you are because you filed a return, so you owe us. You owe us. Either vote Democrat or get expelled out of the country. You owe us. Owe us. Kind of like Hillary running for president, and they've got all that kind of influence peddling and cash that they took. Well, now they owe a bunch of people. Now, the IRS determined that once a Social Security number is obtained, an individual could go ahead and file for a back tax return up to 3 years, including years when they were illegal workers earning money off the books. Now, what if they were earning money on the books, but with a fake Social Security number, and now they have a real Social Security number? Are they going to be able to use that fake one? Just saying. I'm telling you, what we're doing is we're starting to condone illegal activity. We're starting to condone and accept and even pay. Hey, we used to say that crime doesn't pay. Well, now, thanks to the IRS and a few other government agencies, we're now getting to the point where we can say crime can pay if you're an illegal immigrant crossing the border illegally and trying to earn a living here illegally. It can pay because we're not going to punish you. Well, folks, it is the end of another wonderful program, another wonderful day. I will be back here, same back time tomorrow, same back channel. As always, I'm Rod Eccles. This has been the Rod Eccles Show. Thanks for listening. I'm out.